Hey everybody, Dr. Bob Vaughn, your local health and wellness expert, and we're going to be going through some key stretches for your lower back to help loosen some key areas up. First stretch we're going to work on today is a hamstring stretch. So the hamstring is the muscle on the back of the leg. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit up on the edge of your chair. You're going to put your leg out in front of you, sit up nice and tall. So you're going to hinge from the waist, and then you're going to lean forward until you start to feel a pull across the back of your leg. Now, big thing with the hamstrings, it'll tighten up, especially if you spend a lot of time sitting. Very rarely we would take our hamstring through a full stretch, so a lot of people have very short hamstrings, and that's going to put a lot of extra pressure on that lower back. So it's really important to make sure you're stretching this. When you're stretching hamstrings or any area, you want to make sure that you're going to the point of tension, not pain. If you make a muscle painful while it's stretching, it's actually going to make it tighten up more. So you want to make sure that you're not pushing too hard while you're doing a stretch. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to the other side. So just sit back up, put the other leg out, sitting up nice and tall, and then again, making sure you're leaning forward until you feel that light stretch as we're going through there. Again, you should feel that through the back of the leg, keeping that chest up nice and high. Other big keys for any stretch is making sure that you are keeping yourself hydrated. So your muscles are 70% water on average. So it's really important to make sure that you are getting enough fluids and water in your body, especially when you're working on any sort of pain, trying to get things stretched out with. Again, when you're stretching, nice light tension or pulling should not be painful when you're stretching, and just go ahead and relax there. So that is your hamstring stretch. Next, we're going to be working on the second stretch in the series, which is going to be for the glute muscle, which is basically the butt cheeks on the side here. So what you're going to do is you're going to cross your leg over, so put the ankle on the knee. Now, if you're not able to get up to here, straighten the leg out and just put the ankle on the shin somewhere up through that area. And what you're going to do is you're going to sit up nice and tall, and you're going to take your hand and you're going to push down on that knee, and then you're going to hold that for 30 seconds. So we'll hold that out here. Now, while you're doing this stretch, again, to the point of tension, not pain. The glutes are very important muscles when it comes to core stability, keeping you upright. Also, if you spend any time sitting, these muscles will shut off and tighten up within about 20 minutes. So it's really important to make sure if you do have a sitting job, that you are getting up on a regular basis and making sure that you're keeping those moving. With the glute muscle, again, one of those key stabilizers, and this is a big one that will relieve a lot of that pain. All right, so you can go ahead and switch over to the other side. So we're just going to cross that other leg over. Again, bringing that ankle up on top of the knee, and if you can't, just bend that knee and ride down the shin a little bit. You're going to sit up nice and tall here, and again, you're going to push down. Now, this is one of my favorite stretches if I'm in a meeting, especially a boring one. You can just cross your legs like so, put your hand down, lean in, and I look really interested in what the person is saying in front of me, but I'm actually stretching out my glute. And I might be paying attention, I might not, but this is a great way to sneak this in at work, a parent meeting, things like that, especially if someone's going kind of on and on about things that maybe the meeting wasn't about. So you can go ahead and relax there, and that is your glute stretch. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to work on the piriformis. So this is one of the key stabilizers in the lower back as well. It's going to have the same starting position as we did in the glute stretch. So you're going to start with the ankle crossed, but instead of pushing down, you're actually going to pull your leg up and across your body. So we're going to start with that stretch. So again, you're going to pull that up and across. Now the nice part about this stretch is you can tailor it to where you want to feel it. So if you're here and you don't feel much stretch, you can either pull it more across your body or you can pull it higher up towards your chest to kind of tailor that stretch to where you need it. Again, when you're stretching, you're going to the point of tension, not pain. It should not be painful when you're stretching, because if it is, it's going to tighten those muscles up. Whereas if it's a nice light tension, it's actually going to help loosen those muscles and get them to relax like we're supposed to. That's just a normal physiological response. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to those types of things. You can go ahead and relax there. We're going to switch over to the other side. Now these are stretches, and you're going to pull up and across the body. Now these are stretches, you want to get these in a couple times a day, mainly because your muscles work on a set point. So your muscle filaments slide back and forth on each other. And when you stretch, they loosen up, but as soon as you stop stretching, they try to go back to where they were. So the more often you can stretch throughout a day, the further you get that from its original set point, and eventually it has to establish a new one in a more elongated, healthier position. So the more often you can stretch a day, that's some is good, more is better, the more is more often, as opposed to physically harder with your stretches. So you can go ahead and relax there, and that is our piriformis stretch. So the next stretch we're going to work on is the hip flexors. So the hip flexors are a muscle that runs from the front of your low back actually down to the hip, and then from your hip down to your knee. And this is the one that's tight all the time, especially if you spend any time driving, sitting, a lot of different stuff like that, which is about a third of the average American lifespan now. So what you're going to do is you're going to drop down to one knee. The leg that is behind you is the one that you're stretching. You're going to have the other knee out in front. You're going to keep your shoulders and your hips even. Okay, this is very important when you're going forward. And then you're going to lean forward, leading from the hips. And you're going to hold that for about 30 seconds here. Now, when you do this stretch, when you're leaning forward with your shoulders and your hips even, you're going to feel that pull right across the front of the hip. Now, if I start to lean forward, it's going to take the tension off of there. So it's really important to make sure that you're staying upright and that you're leading forward from the hip. Again, you want to pull to a nice tension or pull. You don't want to put it into pain, because if you overstretch a muscle, it's actually going to tighten up more. Now, these are ones that are usually really, really tight, especially because we spend so much time sitting. So it's really important to loosen these up, especially if you're a desk jockey type person. Go ahead and switch over to the other side here. So you're just going to drop that knee down, bring the other leg back up. Again, shoulders and hips even. And then you're just going to lean forward and feel that pressure across that front of the hip. And we're going to hold that there for about another 30 seconds here. As I was saying, if you spend a lot of time in the desk or the car, these are naturally shortened all the time. And you can get what's a contracture. So it starts pulling you forward. This is something that can have a big effect, like on your squat depth. Even getting that hitch in your giddy up, getting in and out of chairs. It's really, really important to make sure that you get these muscles stretched out on a regular basis, as well as getting plenty of water, because again, your muscles are 70% water on average. So it's important to make sure you're staying hydrated as we go forward with that. And go ahead and relax there. All right, so when you're standing up, when you're doing the IT band stretch, you're going to be near a wall. You're going to have your feet together. You're going to cross your outside leg in front of your back, or in back of your back leg. So outside leg in back. You are going to stick your hip out, then hand on the wall, and you're going to lean away from the wall from the hip. So you're really doing kind of like I call it a sassy hip, where you stick it out and then lean. And that's going to put a big pull across the side of the hip here now. Now your IT band runs all the way from the top of your hip down to your knee. Most of the muscular portion is above the hip joint here. So that's where you're going to get most of that stretch. You want to hold that for that 30 seconds. So we've got about 10 more seconds that we're going to hold here as we're working, then we'll switch over to the other side. Now, as you're doing this is a big one with a lot of stability. If your glutes are weak, your piriformis are weak, the IT band has to absorb that extra force, and a lot of hip pain, bursitis, things like that are really going to affect this IT band. So by getting this loosened up, it's going to take a lot of pressure off. So we're going to go and switch over to the other side. Just go ahead and stand up, and we're going to turn the other direction here. Again, back leg behind. Sassy hip, stick that hip out, and then lean away until you feel a pull across the outside of the hip. And again, we're going to hold that for that 30 seconds, going to the point of tension, not pain. Really important that you're making sure you're getting these multiple times a day as well, just because muscles do work on set points. So the further you can get it stretched over a period of time from your original set point, the longer it's going to get, or the more it's going to get elongated, and the better off you're going to be. So you got about 5 seconds left on this stretch here. Making sure you're staying nice and hydrated as well. Awesome. And go ahead and relax. The last stretch in our lower back stretch series is for the calves. So there's 2 different muscles in the calves that we're going to be stretching out. There's the gastrocnemius, which is the big muscle on top that everybody thinks about. And then there's also the soleus, which is the smaller flat muscle underneath there. So we're going to do a couple different variations of that. What we're going to do first is we're going to work on the gastroc. So we're going to turn around and face the wall here. Now, as we're doing this, you're going to put the hands up on the wall here. You're going to put the leg you want to stretch behind you, and you'll notice my knee is straight right now, okay? So you want to keep that knee straight, and then you want to lean into the wall until you feel a pull across the top part of your calf. And we're going to hold that for about 60 seconds, or about 30 seconds, which again is going to feel like a long time. So, you know, a commercial, one short commercial, half a long commercial. A little bit of song there. I know most people DVR their commercials and skip them anyway nowadays, but just in case. And then you want to hold that there. We have about another 10 seconds for that stretch. And again, when you're stretching, it should be to the point of tension, not to pain. Very important that you're not pushing into pain as we're going forward. And you're going to go ahead and switch over to the other side. Again, heel flat, knee straight, leaning forward, and you're going to feel that stretch right across the top through here. Now this is another muscle that gets very tight. Most of our shoes have a lot of heel lift in them. Even if you're not wearing a pair of heels, even the average pair of running shoes, cross-training shoes, has about an inch heel lift in it compared to the toe, which makes it cushier when you run, but it actually shortens your calf all day long, and then you go to walk around barefoot and things like that. Puts a lot of extra strain on that because it's not used to being in that lengthened position. So it's really important to make sure you're stretching these muscles out on a regular basis. And you can go ahead and relax there. Now the next stretch we're going to do is for your soleus. So it's going to be the same setup position with just one key difference. Instead of having that back knee straight, we're actually going to have that back knee bent. So I'll show you what we're talking about here. So we're going to do that same setup up against the wall. Start with the knee straight, keep the heel flat, and then you're going to bend your knee here until you feel the stretch lower down here, and maybe even feel it down into the tendon towards the heel. And again, we're going to hold that for about 30 seconds. So this is going to give us about another 15 seconds on this hold here as we're holding it. And again, to the point of tension, not pain. If your stretches are painful, you're doing them wrong. If you're pulling too hard, some is good, more is better. The more is more often instead of physically harder when you're talking about stretching. So we're going to go and switch over to the other side. And again, start with the leg straight, heel down, and then bend that knee until you feel that pull through the lower part of the calf and into the heel here. And then we're going to hold that for about 30 seconds as well. These are stretches really good for everybody, but people who spend a lot of time sitting, people who are active running, things like that, calves will get very, very tight. So really important to make sure that you are getting them stretched out on a regular basis. You get about 5 seconds left on this hold here. Perfect, and go ahead and come on up. So that is the soleus stretch, and that wraps up our lower back stretch series. So to recap with these, you want to make sure that you're getting your stretches in 2 to 3 times a day to start off with. The more often you're stretching, the further you're going to set those original set points as you go. You want to make sure you're staying hydrated as you're doing your stretches, so half your body weight in ounces of water every day, and you want to make sure that you're being consistent with your stretches and doing them every day. One other key part a lot of people forget is there's no rule that says you have to do them all at once. So if you have a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, you can break these up throughout the day. Just make sure you're rotating which ones you do so you get them all in a couple times a day. So it's Dr. Bob Vaughn, your local health and wellness expert. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions.